I was there when the transmission came through, standing right beside Chancellor Vorn when his three eyes went wide with what I can only describe as existential dread mixed with a healthy dose of "oh, we are completely screwed." Let me back up. My name is Kelrix, and I serve as the primary communications officer aboard the Hegemony Command Station Overlook 7. Fancy title for someone who mostly forwards messages and occasionally deals with drunk freighter capitals who broadcast on emergency channels. It is not glamorous work, but it pays well, and nobody shoots at space stations. That particular morning, third rotation, I was nursing my fourth cup of stimulant brew and contemplating the exciting decision between the gray nutrient paste or the slightly less gray nutrient paste for lunch. The console beeped. Standard incoming transmission. I almost ignored it. Almost. The frequency was old, like ancient old, pre-hegemony old, the kind of frequency that had not been used in over 200 cycles, because everyone who knew about it was either dead or had forgotten it existed. But there it was, blinking on my screen like a ghost from a time when humans still had their own independent colonies scattered across the outer reaches. I opened the channel. Static. Then a voice. Female. Human. Calm. Too calm. This is Aria Vale, sovereign ruler of the Terminus colony, broadcasting on all Hegemony channels. I am coming home. I laughed. Actual, genuine laughter. Because Terminus was a fairy tale. A cautionary tale the Hegemony told new species when they got too uppity. 217 cycles ago, the humans had a mining colony in the Vale Expanse. Rich in rare minerals, strategic location, all that good stuff. Then they refused to pay their expansion taxes, refused to hand over 30% of their resources, refused to acknowledge Hegemony authority. So the Hegemony did what the Hegemony does best. They sent the 3rd Enforcement Fleet, 12 capital ships, 300 support craft. They glassed the colony from orbit, turned the entire moon into a monument of melted rock and regret. No survivors, no exceptions. The message was clear. You do not say no to the Hegemony. And now apparently their queen was calling. There I played the message again. Same voice, same words. But this time I noticed something else underneath the static. A harmonic resonance. Multiple signals broadcasting simultaneously. Hundreds of them. No, thousands. Chancellor Vorn? I kept my voice steady. Professional. You need to hear this. The Chancellor arrived within minutes, his ceremonial robes flapping behind him like particularly anxious flags. He listened to the transmission 3 times. His face, normally a pleasant shade of purple, slowly turned a gray that matched my nutrient paste. Verify the source, he said quietly. I was already working on it. Triangulation took longer than it should have because the signal was bouncing off relay stations that should not exist anymore. Stations in the Vale Expanse. Stations that were supposed to be debris. The computer finally gave me coordinates. Sir, the signal is originating from the Terminus system. Impossible. Yes, sir. Very impossible. And yet, he stared at the screen, at the coordinates, at the proof that something very much alive was broadcasting from a very much dead colony. Then he did what any sensible Hegemony official would do when faced with impossible situations. He called for reinforcements. Within 6 hours, the Overlook 7 was hosting every high-ranking military officer within 3 sectors. Admiral Thex arrived first. All 4 arms crossed in what I had learned was the Corthan equivalent of extreme skepticism. General Mira followed, her scales rattling with barely contained aggression. And finally Supreme Coordinator Vex himself, who teleported directly onto the bridge in a show of power that made everyone uncomfortable. Play it, Vex commanded. I played the message, all 27 seconds of it. The room fell silent except for the hum of life support systems and someone's nervous breathing. Scouts, Admiral Thex said finally. Send scouts. Verify if anything is actually there. Already done, Chancellor Vorn replied. They jumped to the system 4 hours ago. We should be receiving their report any moment. Right on cue, my console blinked. Incoming transmission. From the scout ships. I opened it. What came through was not a report. It was screaming. 3 seconds of pure terror, then static, then nothing. Kelrix, the Chancellor said slowly. Tell me that was a technical malfunction. I really wish I could, sir. Another console lit up. Long-range sensors. Of something big was moving through the Vale Expanse. No, not something. Many things. The display showed blips. Lots of blips. moving in perfect formation, moving fast, moving toward us. Get me a visual, Vex ordered. The main screen flickered. The image was grainy, distorted by distance and interference. But what we saw made every single being in that room take an involuntary step backward. Ships.
Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands.
They moved in a pattern that was both beautiful and terrifying. A formation that spoke of military precision and absolute purpose. The lead vessel was massive, easily 3 times the size of a Hegemony dreadnought. Its hull was dark, almost invisible against the void, covered in what looked like weapon emplacements. So many weapon emplacements. What class is that? General Mira asked. Unknown, I replied, running the profile through our database. No match in any registry. The design is human, definitely human, but wrong, advanced, nothing like what humans had 2 centuries ago. They have been building, Admiral Thex said softly, all this time, in secret. They have been building. The transmission came again, same voice. But now we could see her. Oh, the screen split, showing both the approaching fleet and a woman's face. She was young, maybe 30 cycles by human standards, dark hair pulled back severely, eyes that held no warmth, no mercy, just cold calculation. I am Aria Vale, she repeated, granddaughter of Marcus Vale, the last governor of Terminus, daughter of Elena Vale, who died in the bombardment while pregnant with me. Cut from her womb in the last moments before your weapons turned our home into glass. I was raised in the deep shelters, fed on stories of what we lost, trained for this singular purpose. She paused, smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. You thought you killed us all.
Well, you were almost right. Almost.
3,000 of us survived in the underground complexes.
Engineers,
Scientists, military personnel, and one very determined midwife who refused to let a baby die just because the world was ending above us. The fleet on the screen maintained its approach, steady, relentless. We spent 217 cycles building, learning, waiting. Your own surveillance was kind enough to provide us with all your technological advances. We improved on them. We made them better. Because while you have been comfortable and complacent, we have been angry. And anger, when properly directed, is the most powerful force in the universe. Open a channel, Vex commanded. Now. I did. The Supreme Coordinator stepped forward, drawing himself up to his full imposing height. Aria Vale. This is Supreme Coordinator Vex of the Hegemony Council. What occurred on Terminus was regrettable, but it was in accordance with Hegemony law at the time. Your colony refused lawful taxation, refused integration. The response was proportional. Proportional, Aria repeated. The smile vanished. You murdered 3 million people because they would not give you their resources. Men, women, children. You glassed the entire moon, made it uninhabitable for 200 cycles. And you call that proportional. The law is the law. Then I suppose you will have no objection to me following my own laws. The laws of a sovereign human nation that you tried to destroy. The laws that say genocide requires justice. The laws that say retribution must be paid in full. The fleet was closer now. Sensors showed they would reach our position in less than 3 hours. Chancellor Vorn was frantically calling for every available ship. The garrison responded. 12 dreadnoughts, 47 cruisers, 183 support vessels. It was an impressive sight. The kind of force that had conquered entire star systems. It looked like toys compared to what was coming. You cannot win this, Vex said. Even if your ships are advanced, you are outnumbered. The Hegemony has thousands of vessels, millions of soldiers. You are 3,000 survivors with delusions of revenge. Tausers, with delusions of revenge. You are right, Aria agreed. I cannot win. Not alone. But I am not alone. The screen changed, showed something else, something that made my blood run cold despite the fact that I did not technically have blood. Other fleets. Dozens of them, emerging from slip space at coordinates throughout Hegemony territory, each one broadcasting human identification codes, each one moving toward major Hegemony installations. Terminus was not the only colony you destroyed, Aria said quietly. It was just the most recent. Over the past 5 centuries you have eradicated 17 human settlements, 43 billion people, dead, because they would not bow, would not submit, would not become part of your perfect little empire. She leaned forward, and her eyes were fire. But you missed some. In your arrogance, you assumed your weapons were perfect. They were not. Every colony had survivors.
Hundreds here, thousands there.
We found each other. In the dark places between stars. In the ruins you thought were empty. We found each other. And we built. And we planned. And we waited for the day when we were strong enough to make you pay for every single life you took. This is madness, General Mira hissed. You will die. Your entire species will be wiped out. Perhaps. But you will die first. The transmission cut. The fleet continued its approach, and somewhere in the depths of my mind, past the fear and the denial, and the desperate hope that this was all some terrible mistake, one thought emerged crystal clear. We had woken something we should have left sleeping. The Chancellor was shouting orders. Ships were moving into defensive positions. Shields were powering up. Weapons were coming online. It was impressive, organized, professional. It was not going to be enough. I watched the tactical display, watched the human fleet spread out in a pattern that suggested they knew exactly where every single one of our ships would be before we moved them, watched as their weapon systems began to charge with energy signatures that made our sensors scream warnings. How long until they are in range? Vex demanded. 97 minutes, Admiral Thex replied. Then we have 97 minutes to prepare for war. They pulled up the communication logs, started recording everything. Because someone needed to document this. Someone needed to remember how it started, how we had been so confident in our superiority that we never considered the consequences, how we had planted the seeds of our own destruction and watered them with the blood of innocence. The human fleet advanced, silent, deadly, inevitable. And I realized with the kind of clarity that comes right before everything goes completely wrong, that this was not going to be a battle. It was going to be an execution. I have completed part 1 of your story. I intentionally kept it under 3,000 words to leave plenty of room for dialogue, action, and development in the remaining portions, while ensuring the complete story fits within 6,000 words across 2 parts. Part 2 will continue the confrontation and reveal the full scope of humanity's revenge. Let me know when you would like me to write part 2. The first salvo hit us before our weapons were even fully charged. The first salvo hit us before our weapons were even fully charged. I do not mean they fired early. I mean they fired from a range that should have been impossible. Their weapons reached across space like the fingers of an angry god and tore through our forward line before anyone could react. 3 dreadnoughts. Gone. Just like that. Not damaged. Not crippled. Gone. Vaporized into constituent atoms with such efficiency that our sensors took a full 10 seconds to register. They were no longer there. Return fire. Admiral Thex roared. Our ships opened up. Plasma cannons. Kinetic railguns. Missile swarms. Enough firepower to level a continent, all of it converging on the human fleet in a display that would have been beautiful if it were not so desperate. The human ships did not even slow down. Point defense systems, more sophisticated than anything in our database, picked off every single projectile. Energy shields, impossibly efficient, absorbed the plasma bursts without flickering, and through it all, they kept coming, kept firing, kept killing. Shields at 60%, someone shouted. Evasive maneuvers. They are predicting our movements. Of course they were. 200 cycles of watching us, learning us, understanding every tactical doctrine, every standard maneuver, every predictable response. We had taught them everything they needed to know, to kill us efficiently. Another spread of human weapons fire, this time targeting our cruiser line. 12 ships tried to scatter. 9 of them made it. The other 3 became expanding clouds of debris and frozen atmosphere. We need reinforcements. Chancellor Vorn was gripping the command rail so hard his knuckles had gone white. Where is the 7th Fleet? En route, sir. EETA 40 minutes. We do not have 40 minutes. He was right. Human fleet was carving through our defenses like they were made of tissue paper. Every shot found a target. Every target died. It was surgical. Precise. Professional. They were not angry anymore. They were efficient. And that was so much worse. The station shuddered. Direct hit. Minor damage, but enough to remind us that we were not immune. That we were just as vulnerable as every ship dying out there. Kelrix, Vex said, his voice surprisingly calm. Open a channel to Aria Vale. Sir, are you sure that is? Now. I opened the channel. The screen flickered. Oria's face appeared, but now she was standing on what looked like a command bridge. Behind her, dozens of humans worked at stations with the kind of focused intensity that spoke of years of training. "Supreme Coordinator," she said, "have you called to surrender?" "We do not surrender." "Pity. It would save lives. Yours, mine, does not matter to me either way." Another explosion. Another ship gone. I pulled up the casualty count. 7,000 dead in the last 12 minutes. 7,000 beings who had woken up this morning thinking they would see another rotation. "What do you want?" Vex asked. "I told you. Justice. Be specific." Aria considered this. "Blinder, someone called out coordinates." She nodded, made a gesture. "Somewhere out there, more of our people died. Every member of the Hegemony Council who served during the Terminus bombardment," she said, "executed. Every military officer who gave the order, executed.
Every ship captain who fired the weapons, executed.
And every politician who voted to ratify the action, also executed. That is over 3,000 individuals. 3,047 actually."
I have a list. Very detailed.
Cross-referenced. Verified. "And if we do this, you will stop?" She laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was bitter and sharp. "The stop? No. This is just the first payment. The down payment, if you will. Then we discuss reparations. Territory. Rights. All the things you denied us. All the things you stole. We want them back." "You are talking about dismantling the hegemony. I am talking about justice. If that dismantles your precious empire, then perhaps your empire deserved to fall." Vex's face remained neutral, but I had worked with him long enough to see the calculation behind his eyes, the cold math of power and survival. "And if we refuse? Then I glass every hegemony world the same way you glassed ours. Fair is fair." The station shook again, harder this time. Alarms started blaring. "Hull breach on deck 17. Casualties unknown." "You cannot possibly believe the Council will accept these terms," Vex said. "I do not care what they believe. I care what they do. You have 1 hour to begin executing the names on my list. For every minute you delay, I destroy one of your stations, starting with this one." The transmission cut. Silence. It's the kind of silence that happens when everyone in the room realizes they are standing on the edge of an abyss. "She is bluffing," General Mira said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Is she?" Chancellor Vorn gestured at the tactical display, at the wreckage of our fleet, at the human ships that were now positioning themselves in a spherical formation around the station, a formation that looked disturbingly like an execution circle. "Does she seem like someone who bluffs?" "We need to buy time," Admiral Thex said. Holes. Stall her. Get the reinforcements here." "And then what?" I heard myself say. Everyone turned to look at me. I swallowed hard but continued. "We have 3 fleets en route. She has 17 fleets attacking 17 different targets simultaneously. Even if we win here, we lose everywhere else. She planned this. All of it." "So what do you suggest?" Vex asked. "I suggest we consider that maybe, just maybe, we earned this." The words hung in the air like a confession, like treason, like truth. "We murdered billions of humans," I continued. "Not in war. Not in self-defense. Because they would not pay taxes. Because they wanted independence. Because they were inconvenient. And now the survivors want payback. Why is that surprising?" "Because it is not how civilization works," Mira snapped.
He have laws, orders, structure.
"You cannot just murder people because you are angry about the past. Tell that to the 3 million people on Terminus." She had no response to that. Another alarm. This time from the long-range sensors. All their 7th fleet had arrived. 200 ships. Heavy capital ships. The kind of force that could conquer systems. They dropped out of slip space directly into the human formation. It was a massacre. The humans had been waiting for them. Had known exactly when and where they would arrive. The ambush was perfect. Devastating. Within 90 seconds, half the 7th fleet was gone. The other half was scattered. Broken. Retreating in disorder. "They knew," Admiral Thex whispered. "How did they know?" "Because we are predictable," I said. "Because we have used the same tactics for centuries. Because we never changed, because we never needed to. No one could challenge us. Until now." My console blinked.
Incoming transmission.
I opened it without waiting for orders. Aria's face, still calm, still composed. But 57 minutes remaining, she said. I am waiting. Vex stared at her. At this human woman who had brought the mighty hegemony to its knees in less than an hour. This survivor of genocide who had turned herself into an instrument of retribution. If we give you these names, he said slowly, you will spare this station? I will spare this station. The others will continue to burn until I receive full compliance from the council. You are asking us to execute our own people. I am asking you to execute murderers. There is a difference. They were following orders. So were the guards at every concentration camp in history. It did not make them innocent. Another pause. Vex looked around the room, at the faces of his officers, at his advisors. People who had spent their lives serving the hegemony, building it, defending it. We cannot do this, he said finally. We cannot set this precedent. If we execute our own for following lawful orders, the entire structure collapses. Every soldier will question every command. Every officer will hesitate. It is the end of order itself. Then I suppose we die with our principles intact, Aria said. You will die too. Even if you destroy us here, the hegemony will retaliate. You know this. Yes, but by the time they gather enough forces to matter, we will have freed every enslaved race in your empire. We will have armed every oppressed colony. We will have lit fires that you cannot extinguish. You can kill us, Supreme Coordinator, but you cannot unkill our legacy. The lights flickered. Power fluctuation. The humans were targeting our generators now. Methodical. Patient. They were not trying to destroy us quickly. They were showing us that they could, that our survival depended entirely on their mercy. And mercy was something we had never shown them. 39 minutes, Aria said. I pulled up the list she had sent. 3,047 names.
Most of them I recognized. Council members.
Admirals. Generals. Good people. Loyal people. People who had done terrible things because someone in authority told them it was necessary. Was that justice?
I did not know.
But I knew what we had done. I knew the math of our crimes. 43 billion dead. 17 colonies destroyed. Entire genetic lines erased from existence. What was 3,000 compared to that? Sir, I said quietly, we have communication capability. We could contact the council, explain the situation. They will never agree, Vex replied. Then we die.
And everyone on this station dies with us.
723,000 people, families, children, scientists who have nothing to do with any of this. Collateral damage, General Mira said. It happens in war. This is not war, I shot back. War implies two sides fighting for something. This is execution. This is consequence. This is what happens when you build an empire on corpses and convince yourself it is civilization. That is treason. That is truth. The argument was cut short by another impact.
Bigger this time.
The station listed gravity fluctuated. Emergency systems kicked in. Kelrix, Vex said. Get me the council. All of them. Emergency session. I did. It took 14 minutes to assemble everyone. 14 minutes of watching our ships die. 14 minutes of listening to damage reports. 14 minutes of knowing that we were completely and utterly at the mercy of someone who had no reason to show any. When the council finally assembled, Vex laid it out. Simple, direct, no sugarcoating. We surrender the names, or we die, all of us. And 17 other installations die with us. The humans have the capability. They have the will. They have nothing left to lose. What are your orders? The debate lasted 9 minutes. 9 minutes of politicians arguing about precedent and law and order while people burned. Then Senior Counselor Thane spoke. She was old, ancient by most species standards, had served during the Terminus bombardment. Her name was on the list. We did this, she said quietly. We pulled the trigger. We signed the orders. We told ourselves it was necessary, that it was justice, that it was protecting civilization. But it was murder. We murdered them. And now the bill has come due. She paused, looked directly at the camera. Execute us. All of us whose names are on that list. Give them their justice. Because if we do not, we prove that everything they believe about us is true. That we value our lives more than we value truth. More than we value accountability. more than we value being better than the monsters we claimed we were fighting. The silence that followed was deafening. Then, one by one, other names on the list spoke up, some defiant, some resigned, some weeping, but all agreeing, all accepting responsibility. Not all of them. About 400 refused, tried to argue, tried to flee. They were arrested within the hour. Vex turned to me. His face was gray. Tired. Open the channel to Aria Vale. I did. We accept your terms, Vex said. The executions will begin immediately. We ask for ceasefire during the process. Aria studied him, her expression unreadable. Agreed. You have 72 hours to complete the executions and transmit proof. After that, we discuss reparations. And if we comply, fully, what then? Then we see if this hegemony of yours can survive without the foundation of genocide supporting it. If it can, maybe we can coexist. If it cannot, well then it deserves to fall. The transmission ended. The human fleet held position, weapons still charged, still ready, but not firing. We had bought time, bought survival, at the cost of our own. They sat at my console, watched the list of names scroll by, watched as, one by one they were processed, arrested, executed, justice finally delivered, 217 cycles too late, and somewhere in the dark between stars, 17 human fleets held their fire, waiting, watching, ready to finish what we had started so long ago. The age of the hegemony was not over, but it would never be the same. We had learned in the worst possible way that actions have consequences. Let that genocide plant seeds, that those seeds, given time, grow into forests of retribution. Aria Vale had come home, with a death fleet, with justice, with proof that humanity, when pushed to extinction, does not die. It adapts, it survives, it remembers, and eventually it comes back.